Hello, Elaine. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hi, this is Nina Highfill at the Buddhist Center, and I'm here today with Elaine Jackson. Super happy to see an old friend and somebody who is coming, a teacher who is coming to the Buddhist Center very soon to teach a brand new course. So I'm very excited to talk to you about it, Elaine. But I would like to start with um, a question that will help our listeners to get to know you better. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about who you are and um, about your life, how it unfolded, so that you ended up being a Buddhist teacher, coming to centers and teaching those courses and leading retreats. I know it's a loaded question.
Well, it is so interesting because it's a long journey. This started almost 50 years ago. So if we had a couple of days, I could tell many stories. But to start with, I met Lama Tupten Nyeshe in 1977 at a retreat in Yucca Valley, California. I had I came with my husband and our two little children. And it was at that retreat that land was donated to have a retreat center in the California mountains. So my husband, John, was a contractor, and he said, let's just sell everything and go live in a teepee for a year and build a retreat center. Okay, all right. We're talking 1977. So,
With two kids living in a teepee, and you were like, "Great idea!"
yeah, sounds like fun. We were the quintessential hippies at the time. It was a time of wishing to have a new paradigm. The war was Vietnam War was finishing, and anyway, we wanted peace and felt that this was an opportunity to do something. So we came. We were the first two on the land in our Volkswagen bus and our two children. And shortly, other people came. And it took, I think maybe it was 2 years before we got the permit to build the center. So we lived in the teepee and built a small structure beside it for a kitchen and lived there for 7 years. And my youngest son was actually born in that teepee. But during that time, this was a time when so many amazing teachers, the old teachers from Tibet came to the US to teach. They came to Vajrapani. Many of my friends met the Dharma in Asia. They went to India, they went to Nepal, they took the Kopan course and invited Lama Yeshe invited all these teachers to come to Vajrapani to teach us. So I didn't have to go anywhere. All these amazing teachers came, and I could just walk down the hill to Vajrapani. So this was an amazing time. And then in 1989, I started a business in our little town of Boulder Creek. I was a graphic designer and had that business for 20 years. During that time, ongoingly, teachers coming to Vajrapani, doing retreats now and then. And then I guess it was 1997, the karma for my marriage finished, and I did my first month-long solitary retreat. And that was quite an amazing retreat. It was because Venerable Rene Fusi said, Elaine, you should do 3 months retreat every year now. And I said, oh, yeah, how could I do that? He says, well, maybe just 1 month. And I thought, oh, okay, how skillful, maybe I could pull that off. So I did manage to do that. And at the time, shortly thereafter, I was the director of Vajrapani for 5 years. And then in 2010, I guess it was, in 2010, I entered into a 3-year retreat. And this was quite an amazing opportunity, something people go, what? In my business, because I was selling my business and my clients would say, what are you going to do? What? But it started with that 1 month retreat every year. I did a 1 month retreat. And because I was in a small town and part of a business association, people knew me. So they heard that I was going to do a retreat for a month. And afterwards, the bank manager said, oh, are you going to do a retreat again next January? So that started it. So for 20 years, I did a January retreat, a month-long retreat every year until I did the 3-year retreat. But I continue that tradition of month-long retreats in January. So that 3-year retreat I did with my partner, Keith, who he was in the main house and I was in the small house. And for a year, we didn't speak. So when you consider what it's like to be silent for a year, you begin to see the importance of words or how much we think to say, and we don't say it. And words just come and they go. We begin to see how thoughts, they come and they go. So that had an opportunity to really go deeper these 3 years. The second year we would speak, what did we call it? We called it, we spoke when it was necessary. So in other words, if you're going to the garden, bring a shovel or something like that. But we didn't talk about things. We didn't go on the internet or have a phone, or Vajrapani kindly delivered our food. I would send a message, and once a week, the food would roll up the hill. That's what Rupa Rinpoche said years ago at Land of Medicine Buddha. He said, if you're sincerely practicing Dharma, the food will roll up the hill. And it sure.
And it did.
And it did. Yes. Yes. So then after I came out of that retreat, Fabienne Pradel, Venerable Droma now, was the director of Vajrapani, and she asked me to lead a retreat when coming out of my retreat. So in order to do that, I needed to be a registered teacher for Vajrapani, for the FPMT, the Foundation for the Preservation of the Mahayana Tradition. And Thupten Norbu Ling and Vajrapani Institute are both affiliated with the FPMT. So I went through the courses that were necessary at that time to get that label. And then I began teaching from time to time. And then, I guess it was for 3 years, I was actually the registered teacher at Vajrapani. So that was a label, merely labeled registered teacher. And I've been teaching. I love to be able to share what I have learned through the power of practicing these ancient teachings. And this course that I'm thinking to teach in January, it just kind of blows my mind, because for many years, Lama Yeshe used to say, Buddhism is not a religion. It's scientific, dear. He would say something and he would say, it's scientific, dear. Check up. So I have always wanted to be able to give these teachings in a way that would be really well held in modern science. But being able to create such a course is a big undertaking. And the 2 students from Tushita in Spain that created this course under the umbrella of Lama Zopa Rinpoche have created such a beautiful course, 7 modules. And this first one, Cultivating Lasting Happiness, Buddhist Mind Science, it's called. These 7 modules, Buddhist Mind Science. And it's very gradual, right? So it starts very simply. So someone who knows absolutely nothing about Buddhism, it's not about Buddhism. It's really about understanding the nature of mind and cultivating happiness Happiness is in the mind. Yes, happiness is in the mind. Suffering is in the mind. How do we cultivate happiness and eliminate suffering? So it's a very beautiful course, and it's very soft. It's very gentle. And I see it. I took this course from Hans and Marina, and I've taken the second course, and I'm now taking the third course. So very gently, it's moving deeper and deeper into the most profound teachings of the Buddha. So I think it's spectacular, and I look forward to sharing it because I think it's so worthwhile. Lama really wanted what he called universal education. He wanted to be able to bring the Buddha Dharma into Western psychological terms so that people could understand, because it's just basically the truth, how your mind works. Now, what is psychology? It's study of mind and behavior. That's exactly what Buddhism is, isn't it?
Yes,
And
it
then
is.
all these various practices to train the mind, to look at the mind and to train the mind so that it's not just on the cushion, but it's through our daily life. What is it that cultivates a warm heart? How do we do that? How do we cultivate that? What is it that brings joy? If we think about it, well, so much joy comes when we think about being kind to others, benefiting others. So much joy. But there's this, as Marina said, this neediness, we cultivate a neediness, which has to do with a mistaken view of reality. So this is uncovering that through the power of our own mind, looking, just pausing and looking. So that's what we'll do.
So exciting, Elaine. We're so excited to be able to host this course and to have you also in beautiful Santa Fe.
Yes.
For students who are unsure if the course is for them, is there any particular group of people for whom the course is designed, or who would you say is the main audience for this course?
I think anyone who wants to be happy.
All right.
Really not
Which
about,
is
it's not,
basically everyone.
yeah, it's really not about having even an inquiry into anything. It's just really trying to understand why our world appears as it does, and how can we create a beautiful world? How can we create a life that is at peace, even in the midst of chaos and confusion, and being involved living in a place, in a world where we see so much pain and suffering? How can we be in that and not be overwhelmed by that, but to use those as tools to cultivate our loving heart? So I think it's really for anyone. And it's also interestingly, it's for people who've been studying Buddhism for 50 years. It's also that, because I have
But
personally
also beginners, right? Like people who
beginners,
have not studied.
very baby beginners. Yes, mostly I think. I think for baby beginners and people who've been studying for a while, or if your practice is a little bit hot, a little bit cold, can't keep a steady practice, how to develop a steady practice, how to cultivate a practice that is sustainable. Lama Yeshe used to say, don't be a mushroom student where you get all excited when you go to a course or you listen to a teaching and you think, I'm going to do that. I'm going to sit and I'm going to meditate every day for 1 hour. We have to be realistic, small,
Mm.
realistic, so that we can grow gradually. We grow moment by moment. So it's for everybody. We all need it.
Yeah, we'll come back to that realistic one because I'm curious about your life a little bit and how you stayed realistic throughout your life. But just one last question about the course, Elaine, before we move on. Um, what do you think people might be able to expect to take away from this course? Like, are they going to become happy after they join the course?
What they might take away is some tools. You put on your tool belt, and then if you use the tools, you will see that they stay sharp, that you can use them to create more stability and equanimity in your life and to grow your loving compassion, to see, even just to inquire into the nature of reality, even just inquiring into the nature of the mind, that automatically puts a pause in how you might be about to react in a way that's maybe not going to bring you the happy result you want. So
Yeah.
it's like that, I think. I think best to have no expectations, but to just come with a curiosity. Like,
Yes.
what is it? Hmm,
Yes.
let's just see. We just see, we try. And it's a question of just being open-hearted and open-minded. Come with an open mind and a curiosity, like what might be under the Christmas tree. Hmm.
That's the recipe for success in anything we do, right? Curiosity and open-mindedness.
Yes,
So we
truly.
automatically have more fun with
Yes.
everything we do.
Yes, to
Wonderful.
do that, but also, there requires a certain amount of vigilance and dedication. One has to decide. At some point in time, we have to decide what I've been doing up until now has not always brought me the result that I seek. How can I change that? Because
Yes.
there's the key.
Mm. Yes. Well, two last questions, Elaine. One of them is going back to this practical approach and practicality. You're a mom of three kids, right?
Yes.
And you've maintained your practice. You managed to do one long 3-year retreat and then, right? And then retreats every single year, at least a month per year. I think many people who are listening to this think that that's an impossibility, or are wondering at least how you manage to do that, because we are all so busy. And, for those of us with kids and with full-time jobs and different responsibilities, it's just so hard to even carve out a few minutes per day, not to mention, months of your year or years of your life. So how did you do this, Elaine? What advice do you have for everybody who is so busy in
Yes.
life?
I think at some point in time, we have to have some faith in our own ability to make a change. No. We have to see, we say there are four thoughts that turn the mind to practice. The fact that we have this amazing life that we have. Those of us, probably the people who are listening to this, have everything they really need. They have food, clothes, shelter, they have heat in their home, they probably have a car or at least transportation. We have we have more than we need in this life. So it's a precious life. We have intelligence, we have our health. So, but that's the first thought, to just recognize how precious that what we have here is, that I do have an opportunity. I do have that opportunity. I have the freedom to practice. I do have the freedom, even if it's 5 minutes. I do have the freedom. I make that choice. And then the second thing is, wow, I wonder how long this will last, because we don't usually think about that. We don't usually think, well, I don't have time this morning, but tomorrow for sure. Or maybe this evening. I think tonight after dinner, I'm going to really kind of sit down and practice. No, it's really about establishing a habit. Same time, same place. You turn on the same time, same place. You find a nice corner where you've made a beautiful little space. Doesn't have to be fancy, but you make a place that is your place where you go to be quiet and to inquire into the nature of your mind, to pause and look at what's important in your life. So those are the two things. We do have, if we check up, we do have the possibility to do small, even one day. I say, put an X in your calendar, one day a month. And if somebody says, oh, come to the party on Saturday. Oh, no, I have a date with my ex. So you do that, you put it down. That's how you do it. You put it down today. I'm going one day a month, I'm going to do a day-long retreat. And I'm going to do that for myself and for my family and for my community and for the world. I'm going to grow my loving kindness, compassion, and my wisdom. So you make that determination because you don't know how much time you have left. And then those are the first two thoughts that turn the mind to practice. Then the third one is our actions, that all of our actions make a difference. Every single word we say, every single act we do, and every single thought we have, that plants a seed that pops up, comes back and says, oh, look, comes back. So, this is the law of karma that we have to think about. That's something to think about because uh, we want to cultivate virtuous acts. We want to cultivate acts that will bring happiness, and we want to eliminate those acts that will produce suffering. And there are practices within Buddhist tradition to do just that, to cultivate virtue and eliminate non-virtue. As a matter of fact, the Vajrasattva practice that we do at Vajrapani at the end of the year is just that. It's purifying this mind that's grasping onto some kind of holding that things are truly the way they appear. So the fourth thought is to take a good look at suffering. We don't really look. We think, oh, when we say the first noble fact that Buddha says, hey, look, life is suffering. And when I first heard that, I said, oh, come on, that's a big exaggeration.
Not that bad.
Yes, that bad. But we have to really look at that, even the things that are pleasurable, the things that we look forward to. We have an anticipation, oh, this is going to be so great. And then it didn't turn out that way. Or it was lovely, but then there's some kind of grasping because we want it again. We want it again and again. So really looking at the various levels of suffering, that's another aspect to the four things that say, okay, this is why we should. This is why we should practice. But really, the reason why I practiced that first month was because Venerable Renee told me I should. I had a teacher that I respected, and I saw his good qualities, and I wanted to also cultivate my own good qualities in a more intense way. And then after that, it was people, I said, how do I do that? He said, tell somebody you're going to do such and such a time. You're going to do it. It's, in 6 months, I'm going to do a retreat for a month. So I thought about it, and I went into my business, and I told my office manager, I said, I think I'm going to, for sure she'd say no. I said, I think I'd like to do a month-long retreat in January. And she said, okay. She said, if you do this, this, and this, I'll take care of that, and that, and it'll all be fine, because January was a slow time. And so then it was a matter of ego, wasn't it? Pride. I said I was going to do it, and now I have to do it. Plus, she told everybody. It's a small town, and she told the bank manager, oh, she's going to do a month-long retreat. So that's how it happened. It became an expectation of my friends and my family, so that every January people just know that's what I do. We don't plan anything in January, which is kind of interesting that I agreed to come to Santa Fe in January, but I said I will do retreat and I will teach on
We'll
Saturday.
do our best so you have peace to continue with
I
your
know.
retreat.
No, I'm not worried. I'm not
I'm
worried.
out for that. That's wonderful, though. I think it would be that much more powerful, you teaching that course out of retreat space, so to speak, mental space. So it will be fantastic. I'm sure you motivated many people to, just by having those four thoughts that turn our minds to practice. And now we have almost a month, about 3 weeks to go before the course starts.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, and in between there's a Christmas break, so maybe people have a little bit more time. And you
Yes.
mentioned, Elaine, that the course is full of tools that will let the students direct their practice and use them in their everyday life. I was wondering, just as a take-home message for this waiting 3 weeks, if there is one little tool you could share that people could use maybe on daily basis or whenever they can, um, that could help them prepare for the course?
Oh, that's very interesting. Maybe to simply once a day take a pause, particularly if you find yourself rushing or irritated as you stand in line at the grocery store. Just take a pause and a few breaths. Watch your breath and see how what's arising in the mind doesn't have any solidity, that it doesn't need to allow you to continue down the road to suffering, that irritation, that we call it the road of the river of misery. So to just take a pause. There was for many years when I was young, they said, oh, well, before you, if you have an angry thought, then count to 10. Did you ever have that when you were a kid? Or says,
Yeah, yeah, we
count,
do. We talk
count
about
to 10.
just
So it's the same way. It's just pausing for a moment and seeing how it is that we don't need to be like a bull with a ring in his nose, led around by every thought that arises in the mind. Just
mm,
begin to be a little bit mindful of what's coming up in the mind and pause. Maybe take 3 breaths. Just take a pause
mm,
and try to uh, smell the roses. Try to take in the good. When you go somewhere, look at something beautiful, the orchid on the table, or even when it rains, the dewdrops, the raindrops on the leaves, whatever it is, trying to look at the good. This is really helpful to helping the mind. So it
sounds
really,
like it.
it's like that.
Thank you. Thank you for this advice, especially I think in the holiday time, our minds tend to become busy. There's many, to-do lists and gifts to buy and meetings to go to and so on. So I think it's a wonderful advice for that time, Elaine. I think for everybody to try to remember to smell the roses sometimes because I think they're around. We just don't always notice them when we run too
Yeah.
fast.
Yes, it is
Thank
true
you.
because it can immediately change your mind.
Yes.
If we can just pause enough to think of, Lama used to say, glue on the opposite. If an unhappy thought or an irritating thought, some mental affliction arises, if you can glue on the opposite, the person is taking forever in line, then to think, oh, I think they probably, it's possible, that it's really hard for them. So then compassion rises, like that, to glue on the opposite, to try to find the
Right.
good. Find the good.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Elaine. For everybody listening, the course that Elaine Jackson will be teaching, the Buddhist Mind Science course, and its first module, um, Finding Lasting Happiness. Is that correct? Finding
I
Lasting
think it's
Happiness, the
called
Buddhist Mind,
cultivating.
Cultivating Lasting
Yeah.
Happiness
Yeah.
is
Mhm.
starting in January, so that it will go on for 4 Sundays of January at 10 in the morning Mountain Time. And it will be in person in the Buddhist Center Thupten Norbuling in Santa Fe, and also available online at the same time. So you just need to go to TNL, T as in Tom, N as in Nancy, L as in Lucy, SF as in Santa Fe, tnlsf.org. And in the calendar, you'll find the course and you can access it directly from there, 10 o'clock Mountain Time on Sundays. And don't forget to take a pause and smell the roses.
Yes,
um,
yes.
Thank you so much, Elaine. I wish you and everybody listening happy, peaceful, beautiful, good holiday break. I hope you will find some time for yourself. And we are looking forward to welcoming you in Santa Fe, Elaine.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing you.